Hey everybody, welcome to UGASports Live. My name is Roddy Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dane Young and Hall of Fame former head coach at the University of Georgia, Jim Donnan. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. I am here at the Classic City East location in Watkinsville, Georgia, right off Highway 15, I believe, just from downtown. You basically cross the railroad tracks on your way to Greensboro. So swing out here to Classic City Eats when you get a chance. We got great food out here, wonderful drinks, some great cocktails, and I have the golf simulator behind me, which I failed last week because I couldn't get the ball in the right spot. I didn't know where to line it up, so I was just standing over there whacking the ball against the screen, and it wasn't registering it. But now they're like, "Hey, idiot, move the ball back here." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So now it works. Well, it's always worked. I didn't know how to work it, so I also brought my son in to let him hit a few. And when he's done hitting balls, he'll go over to the arcade they have here. They have a great arcade, so you just check that out. Of course, with the great food. And a big shout out to not only the folks here at Classic City Eats, but our friends at Athens Ford, Your Pie, and Academia Brewing Company. Fall practices started. We said last week, about when we came back talking on Tuesday, we would actually have practices in the books, and there are practices, and the team's getting acclimated. There's been some news breaking recently on the injury front and with some coaching developments. And I'm going to go straight to Coach Donnan because I know that's why everybody's tuned in. And Coach, our well wishes are with Coach Scott Cochran, as he works on his mental health and gets prepared to rejoin the team at some point. But I thought it was just a huge, huge luxury to be able to say, hey, while this coach is taking care of things, we have a former Florida head coach and a former South Carolina head coach who's on staff as an analyst who can kind of step right up. And I just think when we talk about the depth on Georgia's offensive and defensive lines and the depth that they have in all these different spots, Kirby Smart's depth on the coaching staff is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, it really is. Starting with Will, and certainly throughout the building, there's so many very good ex-coaches that are now that were full-time that are now either analysts or guys like Buster Faulkner, just tremendous young offensive coach. That's one thing Kirby really is very astute at, supplementing his staff. And in the case of Will, I think some people really kind of jumped to the gun a little bit about saying, well, he's going to take over special teams and all that. The main thing that Kirby looks at, number one, and when some coach would have an issue or be sick or something might happen, and in this case with Coach Cochran, we're certainly hoping that everything works out well. But number one is you can have 10 guys that you can have on the road at any time recruiting, and you have to have that list. And so being able to put a guy with Will's background, knowing the recruits like he does, having been the head coach recently at South Carolina, gives you instant credibility as far as going out seeing coaches, which they'll be able to do some in the fall. I think, I don't know how much with COVID, but they can he can be listed as that 10th guy. So I think that's the big number one thing that you have with Will right away, and the fact that he has that kind of background, that SEC type recruiter, as compared to a young coach that maybe is trying to be a GA or a part-time coach or whatever it might be. So I think that really helps. In the past, when we've lost coaches, we've used guys like Jonas Jennings to fill in that role too, going on the road and visiting with parents because of his relationship on the visits that they've had here. So I think I've adequately handled that. But as far as on the field, there's a trend now among so many coaches around the country to utilize all your coaches in special teams, just because of your interaction with the players. If you are a position coach and you have a chance to help with the special teams, you already know the nuances of that guy. You meet with him on a daily basis, and you know how to motivate him a little bit better. So having Dell McGee help with the kickoff return, or Coach Hankton help with the punt return, or Todd Hartley, who has numerous stints as an actual special teams guy here at Georgia and Miami. Those guys are invaluable and in there to help with the special teams. And certainly Coach Schumann has a lot of experience when he was at Alabama doing that too. So I would say it'd be a team effort on the special teams right now. And we have a couple really good analysts that have had those kind of backgrounds. We have a guy from Louisiana, University of Louisiana that worked for Billy Napier. That's, an analyst there too. So I think it's just the main thing for us is just the continuity of our staff, knowing the players, and overall the head coach places a premium on special teams. And really that's how we play so many players early in other positions, is because they get the experience playing special teams. So I took a long time to answer that, but I want to make sure that everybody knows that we're really fortunate to have Will Muschamp, but I don't think he'll be a special teams coordinator. I think they'll divvy it up among all that. That's just my opinion based on what I know. I think it'll be everybody joining in, and then having Will have the ability to go and help our defense, our secondary, our linebackers, all those things that he's doing behind the scenes, he can now do on the field, kind of be like a coordinator moving around, helping Lanning, but also going position to position and not having a specific, position that he's coaching, but he can really do a lot of technique work with these guys. And that's a real bonus.
Before I give a quick follow-up to what Coach just said, shout out to Tom Harlow on YouTube. He says, hey there from Tokyo, Japan. Thanks for watching from Tokyo. I hope you enjoyed the Olympics, Tom. So appreciate you watching on our YouTube channel.
I'm going to say arigato to him.
Wonderful. We didn't know we were getting multiple languages on this episode. For the Scott Cochran discussion, any speculation, any prediction, any of that doesn't matter. Coach touched on all the coaching stuff, the football stuff. Sure, that matters. A lot of people are involved. But what really matters is this is a guy and his health. Okay. And one thing that we've learned is that physical and mental health is a premium. And I think with the last 18 months, especially people that have regimented jobs, and there's no more regimented job than being a football coach, I don't think, or there aren't many. They're especially prone to just their lives being upended a little bit. And so all I'm going to say on this is that Scott Cochran, hope you get well and you get the support and the help that you need. And good for Georgia for providing that support, because we always hear about it for players, but it's important for coaches to have that level of support as well.
Agreed. We do have some, I don't call it breaking news, but the preseason USA Today poll just came out. Alabama is number 1. Clemson's number 2. You guys want to take a shot at 3, 4, and 5?
I'd say Ohio State, Georgia, Oklahoma. One of those three are going to be 3, 4, or 5.
No, that's 3, 4, 5 exactly. It's Oklahoma is number 3, Ohio State is 4, and Georgia is 5.
That's the best 5 programs in the country and the ones with the best shot to win the national championship.
And to me, I honestly don't care because you'll get to see Clemson and Georgia go at it in a top 5 head-to-head thing. You'll learn a lot more about where they're going to fall out. Yes, you have to have Alabama number 1. I expect Oklahoma to be up there in Ohio State. So to me, it doesn't really matter the way it starts out right now. We'll learn a lot about those.
And on a note about Oklahoma, that I feel very privileged to be involved with it a little bit. University of Oklahoma is sending a group today, athletic director Joe Castiglione, several other people on his staff, his top assistant, a couple of boosters, and they're going to do a facilities tour of a UGA to look at some of the things that doing to, that under Josh Brooks, now the AD, and Kirby, because, Oklahoma has a brand new building, but they got to look at their stadium and all that. But they're going around the country and checking out people like Josh did and Kirby did when we built our stuff. And as you know, Roddy, I don't know if Dane, I have an existing relationship with Joe because he was the assistant AD at Missouri when I was offensive coach, and we've always kept up. But anyhow, he's coming in today, and I'm going to have a chance to see him tonight and have a little dinner with him, and he gave me a little insight that they were coming in. So I thought I'd share with the fans here that it's great that we're welcoming them to the SEC pretty easily here.
Is that why you're wearing a shirt today this time?
What do you mean? I don't wear it. I'm on a Georgia shirt. I mean, I'm not gonna wear an Oklahoma shirt. I don't even have one. I don't think. But
well, you know that shirt at all.
I like
any official welcome to the SEC, you need to get Paul Feinbaum on FaceTime and connect them that way. Like that's just part of the entry packet into the conference.
Yeah, well, we've already had Paul on our show, so but maybe we can get Joe on later to talk about the transition. But I think it's just speaks highly of Josh Brooks, our program, and certainly Kirby, who's been behind the scenes raising a lot of this money. But our whole and Dr. Moorhead, what we've done as far as just the emphasis on facility enhancement certainly gets everybody's attention. And for a program like Oklahoma, they're going to go visit here in Clemson. I think they've already been to Alabama, but it's just a really feather in our cap. I think that people would think that highly of what we've built.
Coach, how often does Kirby and his staff go around to other facilities for that kind of tour? Or do you know?
I don't think Kirby does much of that. I know that our staff visits other staffs and talks football. I mean, pre-COVID, we were big on that, going to pro. Kirby used to, when he first got here, everybody could go to one pro and one college each spring to, interject ideas back into our program. And, I think that's something that most coaches do. I know the one year after 16, we, actually went to Mississippi State and talked to them about punt block and things like that. One year we went somewhere and talked about its own. So I think that's just something that you do. But as far as the facilities, I think more the administrators do that and then bring in the ideas. Let's make sure this building that we have over there now, which I hope the fans are going to be able to go check out. Kirby's got his footprint on every inch of it.
Speaking of every inch, I want to mention our friends here at Classic City Eats that just showed you that giant sausage, cheese, and pickle tray.
That's why you're having to clear your throat, because you just scarfed down a sausage in like 2 seconds.
It's so good. My son's here and he's going through their whole menu. He's going to eat me out of house and home. Shout out to Ollie being a rising senior this year. So you got to feed him. It's worse than having a pack of wild wolves in the house when he comes through there. But I do want to mention our friends over at Your Pie. It's a Tuesday, so I'm here eating the sausage. But if you can't make it to Classic City Eats in Watkinsville, there's a ton of Your Pie locations all over the state, all over the Southeast. Hit one up. It's double points day. And if you go into that app and you actually, you can invite your friends to join that app. You send them an invitation. When they order, you get free breadsticks. So use the app, get double points, get great pizza, get their new 14-inch pizza, get the new giant pizza. And you can also get great food like the pasta that they have, the customizable pasta, the sandwiches, the salads, the gelato, all that great stuff from our friends at Your Pie. So hit them up when you get a chance. I do want to mention that we broke some news the other day that Warren Erickson, Georgia's starting center, had a hand injury. I don't think, from what we're told, it's not going to be that bad. It's not like it's not that bad. So point being, Coach, what do you see how do you see this shaking up the Georgia's offensive line? I put out a piece this morning talking about some of the stuff that I'd been hearing. And I basically said, look, it's too early for people to try to figure out what the offensive line is going to look like. You got the guys that won their spots in spring. They're still hanging on to them. They're not even in pads yet, but we're seeing people trying to move all the parts around. And my comments were, be patient, just wait. It'll work itself out. But I want to go to an actual expert who knows what the hell they're talking about and say, hey, what does this mean for Georgia?
Yeah, I mean, from a coaching standpoint, they've been out there 4 days, 2 days acclimation where you just go out in your helmets and shells. And then the last 2 days they've been in, helmets and those spider pads, whatever you call them, protect you. But then they had the shells on the last 2 days, and then they'll go full pads tomorrow they're going to be off a day. There's a regiment now where you have to take off every, one day, and then again Sunday. So I think the main thing, as far as answering your question, is you got to have some credibility with your players. And fortunately, I feel very good about that player-coach relationship here. That you always let the upperclassmen or the guys that were ahead in the spring or finished the spring, you give them that first opportunity in the first contact scrimmage to start it out. Now you'll move them around, but there's so much juice around here about the fact that we do have some very talented, be like a number draft choice in a pro team that comes in there. Everybody's talking about Fields. Is he going to be able to be the quarterback right away? Well, certainly they're going to look at him, but they also got a veteran guy in Dalton. And same thing true with us. We got, Jones and Radledge and Mims and Willock. All these guys are very good, but and everybody has a tendency to overlook the experience that we do have. So I think the main thing there is you answered it. Hey, let's be a little bit patient. But as far as center, I think it's hard to be a center if something's wrong with your hand, just like quarterback. So you got to be careful there. And I'm sure that from what you've said, I really don't know what the injury is, the extent of it. But the main thing they've got there is Van Pran had a lot of reps in the spring. And you got a guy in Jamari Salyer who's kind of a jack of all trades that can play every position. But in a big game like this against Clemson, if all of a sudden you had to start the game tomorrow, you might look at Jamari a little quicker than you would Van Pran just because of his experience. But I think the main thing, again, I said main thing 4 times, but I'm going to say the main thing again.
The main thing
is just everybody wants a finished product here, and they got a real good plan here. We're not working on Clemson yet. We're working on our own self. We're in an install type deal where we're putting in offense, defense, special team. They'll finish that up. Then they'll work a little bit more on against each other. And then about 10 days before the Clemson game, they'll get into a heavy preseason, first game scout team type thing. But you want to analyze your players and get the best players on the field, and that's what we'll do.
I want to echo that about Jamari Salyer, how important that versatility is and that experience is. And, Kirby Smart talks about kind of being ready for adversity before it happens. Something like this, it's such a big deal that a Justin Schaefer is back at guard. So you don't have a ton of inexperience right at the center of your offensive line. That kind of stuff makes a big deal. And I think you saw that with Solomon Kindley when he returned, when he didn't have to. I think Georgia's fine on offensive line, and the fact that there's pieces to be moved around. That's a luxury that a lot of teams just do not have.
Yeah. And you look at Isaiah Wynn, gets drafted in the first round. I mean, there was a lot of talk about how's this guy playing. So I think the big thing from my standpoint is let's let the coaches coach and put them out there. And, we don't know the day-to-day one-on-ones they're doing as far as their ability to. But I would echo one other thing that I feel good about from a leadership perspective, having guys like certainly Jamari, but also Devontae Wyatt, Jordan Davis. These guys are invaluable as far as what they do to help these younger linemen develop and also set a little standard about, hey, we came back to win, and we, if I'm going to be out here working hard, I want you to do the same thing. And I've never really considered Devontae Wyatt as a football physical freak, but yesterday Bruce Feldman listed his freak team for 2021, and Devontae Wyatt was on there. And
really?
They listed some of his accolades, and he really had some good stats. But I started to call
running back in high school, son.
I don't know that, but I started to call my good friend Bruce and say, "Look, have you ever seen Jalen Carter, or have you ever seen Keely Ringo, or have you ever
seen that picture of Keely Ringo yesterday? Holy hell!
Outside linebacker now, isn't he? No. Hey,
kid looks amazing. Go ahead.
I'm just telling you right now, don't sleep on that guy. I mean, we've had. I mean, he's number one DB in the country 2 years ago.
Yes, he
and,
was.
Guy ran 4.3 laser. Come on, 4.3.
He and I keep hearing a lot of great stuff about Darian Kendrick. I know that the Georgia folks were surprised that he didn't go to the NFL. So if you can get Darian Kendrick on one side and Keely Ringo on the other, I mean, I know Keely doesn't have a ton of experience, but he can make a lot of mistakes. Of course, you can make a lot of mistakes fast at that speed, but he should be fun to watch. I did want to echo what you were talking about the installs. Everyone's like, well, what about the Clemson? When we had Nakobe Dean on last week, he said that he is approaching this fall camp, as day one. He's like, look, I'm basically starting from our install page 1, word 1, letter 1, and going through it, front to back. So again, they've talked this stuff. He's had it available to him for a long time, but he's taking it from that same look. We're going to build ourselves first, then we'll worry about them. And there are I shouldn't say a lot of questions, but there are a lot of options. Like, you're just talking about on the offensive line, moving those guys around. We saw some pictures from practice. There's one of Jamari Sawyer working at center. There's one of Austin Blasky working at center. We know Cedric Van Pran can do it. They've got a ton of guys who can hop over there. So again, I think Dane nailed it, and that you have so many different puzzle pieces you could put in there at center. And then wherever you put Jamari Sawyer, based on who else could take over the tackle spots and guard spots, and the fact that you can play him at any of those spots.
Yeah, that's
it's a great problem to have, that you have so many good talented guys.
It really is. And I'll just give you one little idea about fall camp, and I'm going to imitate my college coach, Earl Edwards. And we used to make fun of him, but he was really right. He said, we're going to have a Socrates approach to our fall camp. Know thyself. We need to understand what we can do before we start worrying about Michigan State. We had Michigan State the first game. They beat us 24-10, but we played them tough. But Bubba Smith, all those guys. But the idea is, understand your strengths, your weaknesses, know your assignments, understand how you supplement each other, what you can do to make up for something that you might be missing at one end, help on the other. And I really think that that's a great approach that I've always felt about fall practices. And even though it's in the summer, they call it fall practice, but it really is a good idea you cannot execute. We see these high school teams out here already playing scrimmage games. I know you went to one last week, but it's hard to execute your assignment if you don't know it. You have to know knowledge of assignment and proper technique. And we've got a gazillion calls on offense and defense, and they give you the all approach, put all of it in, and then break it out and use it for the game plans. But I think it's the way to do it. That's what everybody does. You put in your offense, defense, and your special teams, and analyze your players, and then you start working on your first opponent.
I think a lot of years that comes across as just lip service or something to say to media, the day one mentality, or we're working on ourselves. I think it's more true than ever after the lack of practicing in the last 18 months. I think half the team is really learning how to be a college football player, because it's totally different than anything they've done before.
Good point. And the other thing is learning how to react to the tempo that we have out there, which is an incredible thing to witness. Well, I haven't seen it, since the spring, but let me just tell you that the miles per hour out there, whatever the speed limit is, we exceeded on the practice. There is no wasted effort on anybody's part. Just for example, I watched this spring that there was a deal where they were throwing the ball in the flat, and Coach Munkin had these dummies, these two, I'm not talking about players, he had these two dummies standing out there that these managers put, that the guy was supposed to catch and make sure that he caught the ball in front of the dummies, and the reason he had them out there was because he wanted the ball to be caught in the line. So the people, we've seen this pass where you throw the ball to tight end in the flat or the back in the flat, and then the receivers are blocking right away down the field. Well, if he catches the ball across the line, it's an illegal block. But if it's behind the line, but anyhow, the dummies were actually a little bit too far down the field. I mean, just enough that it would be down. And he made a point right there. These dummies need to be moved back there a little bit where he's catching the ball behind the line. But all these little things, play polish. Coach Switzer said the reason you do a play 1,000 times is 999 is not enough. I mean, practice it. And I just feel like that we didn't have that luxury last year. We had fall camp, but we're scared to death with the COVID, and everything was cutback mode, and it looked like it in the first game. I mean, we weren't very well-oiled machine. Now we had a lot of problems there with our quarterback cohesiveness, but I think everybody just chill and let's see what happens with how we put it all together. But
yeah, you were talking about speed limits, Coach.
I'm excited about our talent.
Going back to your comment about the speed limits, if you want to break the speed limit, although I do not recommend it, and you want to do it in a brand new Ford vehicle, check out our friends at Athens Ford. They will help you to that end. They will not help you break the law, but they will put you in a car that could, if you so chose to do so. They have, I noticed they always, when you first go to the website, the number of vehicles they have available in the lots, it had gotten really low because of the backlog on trucks and such like that, but they've always had plenty. And I've noticed each week that number's creeping up. So they're getting more and more vehicles for you to go out and check out. Of course, anything you buy out there will have a lifetime powertrain warranty on it. Even especially their Ford certified pre-owned vehicles. Those are fantastic because they go through the 172-point inspection to be cleaned up and checked out and make sure they feel like a brand new car. But if you just want a different type, you can get it out there. So their pre-owned selection is growing, as are their trucks. So if you need a new truck, hit them up. And also, if you need any service done, swing by that service bay. It's fantastic. It's better Wi-Fi than you'll find anywhere probably that you have at your house. Free drinks, snacks, immaculately clean, great place to just hang out and while you get your oil changed, or get your tires rotated, or get them to look at something. Or they have a great custom place out there. If you want anything done, you want your vehicle customized anyway, they've got their own department for that. So the parts department is fantastic. So when you get a chance, check out our friends at Athens Ford. They will take care of you. And I'm, again, not telling you to break the speed limit like Georgia does in practice, but it's possible. So
that sound you hear if you're listening to podcasts, that is Roddy's son cranking one into the fairway on a golf simulator over at Classic City Eats. So I just want people to be sure that if you're just listening to this, Roddy is okay, and this is all planned beforehand.
But I got to hey, you go ahead and ask some of the questions that have come in, Dane. I'm gonna step back here and teach this young whippersnapper how it's done.
Well, quickly, you had mentioned Darion Kendrick, and I want to give a quick shout out and encourage our listeners to go back in this feed on our YouTube page and check out the interview that Brent Rollins and I did with Larry Williams from Tiger Illustrated from Rivals.com, the Clemson site. We got a good preview of Georgia and Clemson from him. There'll be some collaboration here in the next 3 or 4 weeks as we lead up to that game. The thing that I did not realize is that Justin Ross being cleared to play medically, the emotional lift that is for Clemson's team and how big of a thing that is. Obviously for their offense, he may be the best receiver in the country in terms of just talent when he's healthy. But just the emotional lift of what he is, that's a big deal. And I thought Larry kind of spoke that in a way that I had not heard. So go check that out.
It'd be the same thing as all of a sudden that George Pickens will be cleared to play in the game. I mean, yeah. For us, that's a similar type situation. Both of them from Alabama, both of them. And we might also point out to our listeners and watchers and everything that we're going to have an interview with Coach Dabo Swinney. Dane and I are going to do a podcast, a Zoom call with him, as long as Roddy permits it. Is that okay, Roddy?
I don't know. Let me think about this one, Coach.
Roddy, I should tell you, I set this up, and I haven't cleared it with Coach Swinney if he's okay with Coach Donnan being on. So I need to get that worked out first to make sure it's okay.
Let's see.
We were kidding about it, but
top 5 guy. We'll let it go because they're in the top 5. That's the only reason. If he'd been in the top 7,
it is a favor to me. Like a lot of these guys have done it, but they know that we've got some heavy interest in our fans with certainly the Clemson game, and we're going to talk about that and some other thing. It's very special that he would take the time to do it. We've been planning this over the summer, and he's got a busy schedule, just like me. And
In the middle of camp, and we're going to get an exclusive interview with the.
I don't know how exclusive it is, but it's
the two of you, and that's it.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
They're not letting anybody else in on their interview.
Yeah.
Question. Let's move on to questions from the vent at UGASports.com. This one is a bit of an injury-related question. We're talking about wide receivers. Bulldog Ben asked, any word on when Dom Blaylock is coming back?
I think in the case of Dom, it's just a case of being really, really careful, because when you look at his experience, his knowledge, everything, there's not a lot to be gained in doing these drills and going through any contact at this point anymore, that he can just build it up here over the next couple of weeks and then get ready to see if he can actually play the week of the game. And he can just jump out there. He's doing the straight ahead stuff. And from what I understand, and is, doing a lot of ball catching drills. So, but at this point, based on what Kirby said in his initial press conference, he hasn't been cleared for contact. And I can understand that. I can see that it'll be the week of the game probably before they'll make a decision there. And if not, then maybe wait a little while. But the big thing, the guy's had 2 ACLs on the same, just got to get at it.
I know we're all rooting for that kid. Very similar to kind of the road that Zamir White had to go through. Although was that opposite knees for Zamir?
Right.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like I said, it's a different ball game with that. Strange Noah on the vent at UGAsports.com says, I doubt that he'll play much this year with Quay Walker and Channing Tindall and Nakobe Dean in front of him, but who is a player comparison for Smile Munden? In the short time that he's been at Georgia already, he already looks like an SEC caliber player. I do know that he's young. So by saying Smile Munden looks like a SEC caliber player, I'm assuming he means body, because obviously we haven't seen the on the field play yet.
No question, he's got the tools to be a SEC linebacker. He looks good in his uniform. He's long. He can really run. Got ability to plays, and he'll be a big part of our special teams. And he'll get some valuable experience behind these very good linebackers. So Channing Tindall and Quay Walker waited their turn, and they're up there. And certainly we got Nakobe, who has a lot of experience, but I'm fired up about Munden. I think he's got a great future here.
Roddy, I want to tease your notes over at UGAsports.com, where you had some pretty high praise of Channing Tindall from some of the people you've been speaking with.
Yeah, Channing I was wondering what, was it going to be Channing Tindall or Quay Walker is going to be the other guy opposite Nakobe Dean back there. And it's just when we talk to people, his name just keeps coming up. But that's not to say that Quay Walker's doesn't, which obviously does. But Channing, I think, is just set to have a stellar year. So, of course, Nakobe Dean too, and the way the defense funnels the runners to those guys, lots and lots of tackles. They will fill up that stat sheet. So that interior Georgia's defense should be fun to watch.
Here's the thing about our defense that we can make a comparison to. Like you have the offensive sets where you use 2 tight ends on some and maybe 1 on the other, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, all those different packages. You got the same thing with your defense where there's maybe 1 inside linebacker and 1 guy that's maybe more attuned to the pass and 1 more attuned to the run, just because of their size. Quay probably a little bit stronger run and Channing maybe against the pass with his speed, but be able to insert those guys interchangeably like that. And Nakobe is a guy that can play every down, whether it's nickel, dime, any kind of look. So those 3 guys really give you a very good kind of systematic type players that can use any way you need to plug them in.
Coach, this question from HugDog18. It's a bit general, so take it where you would like to. He asked, does Todd Monken's offensive philosophy thrive with the kind of weapons that are currently on the roster?
Well, I think for sure philosophy is definitely to attack the field and take what the defense gives us. And he's shown them. He had his full plate of players when he had Pickens and those other guys, and our offensive line had developed. He had the ability to let it go down the field. And so I think certainly if these guys are healthy, Roseme, Blaylock, Burton, all these guys come out there and are able to get going, not to mention Kieris, who hadn't been cleared yet too. I think that's holds the key, getting all those guys out there to run his total offense. Otherwise, we'll just have to adjust and maybe use more tight ends and more backs, which is okay. I mean, it doesn't really make any difference how you line up as long as you move the ball and score points.
Kind of going along with that question, Pine Tree One asked, even if he's not listed as a number one receiver, do you see Eric Gilbert playing serious time versus Clemson and beyond? Or is he just behind a power curve of learning the offense in a short amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a big part of the team. I mean, but, he had to go through a lot this summer as far as academics, making the adjustment just like you always do when you're a transfer. But I don't really know to what extent. From what I understand, he's done well there. But he might not be listed on any depth charts, but I guarantee you it doesn't take much a rocket scientist to figure out that he's going to be a big part of whatever we do.
Yeah, that's when football gets a little less complicated, when you look at guys like Eric Gilbert and Darnell Washington and say, all right, if we can find a way to get them a football, that probably makes me a smart offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and you think about that tight end room, because again, we keep hearing about Brock Bowers, and then then John Fitzpatrick is the actual starter right now. Darnell Washington could do his thing. Brett Sather, that is a filthy tight end room.
Yeah, you got Ryan Goody too. He's a very good athlete. Just had a lot of injuries, but he's very athletic too. But
so what is what is it when you have? Can you get 5 tight ends on the field at once, Coach? Can you just?
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. I mean, seriously, you got 5 eligible receivers. They could all be tight ends. But
there you go. I love it.
That would be the gargantuan pack.
See, Darnell Washington back there, like sitting there as a tailback. I love it.
Tell you this: we haven't had 2 guys that have never caught a pass here that make my mouth water any more than Gilbert and Brock Bowers.
There you go. Just mind-boggling of the potential there. See, all my complaining about the tight ends is going to come to fruition this year. So I will look like a genius. And if you want to look like a genius, I want to tell folks to swing by Academia Brewing Company on the 15th in 5 days from 5 to 8 p.m. They're having their Artinis night. Basically a night where you get paint supplies and a free beer, at least one beer. It's $35. You get all the paint supplies you need, the canvases and all that stuff. And it's a painting thing. So you go out there and you paint and you drink beer. And I'm sure the paintings start out good, but as you drink, they get a little bit more fun. And then if you haven't gotten your COVID vaccine, you can swing by Academia Brewing Company on August 13th, 3 days from now, from 4 to 8 p.m. And they are partnering with the Clark County Health Department to be able to offer both the Pfizer vaccine and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So swing by.
They give you a free beer, you get vaccinated?
I'm looking to see that. Doesn't say, but I bet they would. So the vaccines are completely free of charge, no insurance or ID needed. So Academia, again, this is the same folks. When COVID hit, instead of Matt Casey out there at the Academia, just shutting down, he turned his restaurant into basically I guess the equivalent of a soup kitchen type thing. He basically started making food for people in the community. And he basically opened his place up for donations. Said, look, if you folks want to donate, I can use that money to buy food and pay my staff. So he didn't have to let a bunch of people go. And they worked with, all the safety precautions they could to provide meals for people in the community. It was a great humanitarian and smart move on his part to say, look, I want to try to keep these people paid, but we can't have people come in here and we're not going to get enough traction for people doing takeout orders. let's open it up and take care of the community. And they did. He, the donations flowed in and he took care of people. So this is just another chance of them giving back. They do tons and tons of charity work out there at Academia Brewing Company, and we are proud that that they sponsor our show. I really appreciate it.
This is not a question, but a comment from Real Boss over on YouTube. He just says that Arian Smith will be the X factor against Clemson in Georgia's season opener, and very well could be. That speed is unquestioned.
Yeah, he brings a lot to the table. Not only his speed, but he can make you miss too. I mean, he's a very jitterbug type guy that can run in space after he gets the ball. And we saw last year, particularly to Kiera, some of the bubble screens and quick screens that we've got. And those will be something that we utilize with Arian and Burton, the jet sweep, all those ways to get the ball to a skill guy without having to really worry much about the defense. If you call a play where the guy goes in motion and you hand him the ball, that's like a pass, or you catch the ball and just stand up and throw it to him behind the line. That's like a run, but he gets a chance to go with it very quickly. So we got a lot of those plays and a chance to get the ball to these skill guys.
Does it help to have a guy with that sort of speed returning kicks, or is elusivity or judgment more important than just pure speed when it comes to returning kickoffs?
Yeah, I think our decision for kick returners is going to be one of the biggest ones we have to make, because it's like you going through a buffet line. You got to make some decisions what kind of desserts you're going to have. But Kieras, who's a ranking punt return guy in the country, he done well, and the guy that preceded him hurt his knee. Don Blaylock was great at returning kicks. He had some very good returns for us his first year. Then you've got Kenny McIntosh, who, we just talk about these guys, and I don't want to go overboard, but there's some talent there in the open field that really, Kenny McIntosh returning kickoffs is just outstanding. And then you got, not to mention Cook, and Keely Ringo, probably fast as Smith. So you put either one of those guys back there. So I hope we're not returning a lot of kickoffs. I mean, we definitely don't want to do that, but
we got to return one at least.
But I've gone on record on some of these shows that I've done, and I think the biggest X factor for us is our kicking game. Our kicking game is among the best going into the season that I can ever remember at Georgia, with Jake, with Pod, with these kick returners. On kick returns. I mean, Samir White's outstanding in the kick return, one of the wedge guys. He was tremendous last year blocking kicks. He had that block against Arkansas. I mean, all these guys are helping you. Zamir's speed is outstanding as a cover guy too. So we got a lot of good guys, Breeny, that really are going to help us in the special teams.
That's a good tease for Brent Rollins and me. We're doing a piece on UGASports.com in the coming days. Film Don't Lie, special teams, just where Georgia is heading into the season based off of last year. Because a lot of talk goes to offense and defense, and coaches sitting here telling you that special teams is a big factor for Georgia in this season. And I think you're right, Coach. I think it's a spot, especially a kick return, for some of those running backs to get a little bit more opportunity, just because it is a crowded backfield and there's one
forgot
football.
to mention Milton too. I mean,
yeah.
I tell you, I was over there to get checked on something the other day. I want to congratulate, and then Roddy broke this story that I didn't even know it. And when I read it, that David Jack, our associate trainer, is now the head trainer at University of Southern California. So I went over there to congratulate him, because he'd always been nice to me, and a very, very astute young trainer. That's really a compliment to Kirby again, that Ron Corson's got these people that as an assistant here gets a head job at Southern California. But I went over there, and I just happened to be walking through there, and I saw Ken. Wow. I I mean, I try to tend from going overboard here about kids because it's just, it's not fair. But you talk about a guy that's completely chiseled to the max and has an air of confidence about him. I talked about him the first show that after I ever met him, about I went up and introduced myself and told him that I used to coach here and all, because most of these guys don't know me, but he was so just outgoing then. And then, I hadn't seen him since COVID, and he remembered me and he said, "How you doing, coach?" All that stuff.
Nice.
But I'm just telling you now, that kid is chiseled. I'm talking about Todd Gurley like look guy.
Wow.
Just really. And we got a real problem there. It's a good problem, but you got to be careful about subbing. But I don't feel bad about any of those 5 going in the game at any time. And I know that there's been some issues. People talk about pass protection and all that. Hey, when a guy only has 5 or 6 chances to do it, and like Kenny Mack, sometimes your grade's not as good, but let's get it over 30 or 40 times, and then you might say he's not a great pass protector. But I would say we're not going into the game worrying about Kenny Mack blocking for the quarterback. We're worried about him catching the ball and running, the outside zone.
I want to just mention too, Coach, you talked about a sign of program health is when assistants are getting jobs to lead programs at other places. And we see that all the time with football assistants, with Kirby Smart's assistant coaches becoming coaches elsewhere. And I mean, from a media side, Roddy, you and I see it with, I call them Claude Felton's minions. The people that work under Claude Felton end up running athletic departments elsewhere. They run professional teams. We're seeing with the Miami Dolphins right now, their media coordinator used to be with Claude here at UGA. But with the training staff, Ron Corson, his tentacles go out, and there's this tree of Ron Corson people that lead programs in other places. That's a sign of really healthy programs.
Yeah, and you look at Ron from a national perspective right now. Certainly, Trainers Hall of Fame, but his lead on the COVID, being the number 1 guy in the SEC from a trainer's perspective, they had doctors from place, but they had a group that they had, specific people for different areas. And he is among the leading people in the country as far as, researching and figuring out what to do as far as keeping the players safe. And sure that when Southern California was looking into hiring a trainer, they wanted a guy that had a good COVID background, because you see what the problems are on the West Coast out there. So that certainly helped David Jack in that case too. But we got a really good group of young assistants, just like we do, assistant coaches. But all those guys and our
the other teams raid the support staff too, from the recruiting office to the equipment guys to everybody.
Mac Brown was telling me he just hired one of our girls that just graduated from the recruiting office that was an intern here, and said he was really, really impressed with her. And I said, well, she's not going to tell you any of our secrets on how we get these players. But it's nice that this young lady got a job in Carolina out of here, and that's what they're looking for. People are looking for, and Mac hired somebody from our equipment room too. So he knew that we had guys that knew what they're doing. But
Sam Pittman's trying to get them all as well. So and Texas A&M's trying to get them all too. So
Sam's got his share from us, that's for sure.
You with him as well. So
dog acts on the vent, and we would be irresponsible if we didn't at least talk about this legacy. I want to know Coach Donan's thoughts on Coach Bowden and what he meant to college football. Bobby Bowden passing away this week.
Well, it was a sad time for me. I had a chance to talk to Tommy Bowden a couple of weeks ago when it was first known that Coach Bowden had pancreatic cancer, and we talked a little bit about his how far along it was, and he said it wasn't going to be long. But Coach Bowden was always good to me. I don't know if many people here know, but I was a coach at Florida State before Coach Bowden got in there. But my mother's uncle was the dean of commerce there at School of Commerce, and he actually has a building named for him, the Coyle Moore Athletic Facility there on campus. He was the faculty academic rep, athletic rep for so many years, and I had a chance to after I coached there to go back and see Dr. Moore, and he introduced me to Coach Bowden. I went out to practice, and then I've told you before about us going down there and watching practice when Bowden took us out to watch Sanders come out there in his track uniform. But on these Nike trips, Coach Bowden I was always around him, and it was great to be around him and Ann, and he was always nice to me and Mary, and just any way you look at it, a very genuine guy, and it's going to be a big loss for. But at the same time, the guy had 91 years, and I'd take that right now. But it's a sad day, but also rejoice in his legacy. And there's no question he took on a tremendous situation there, and 14 straight years, top 5 team, all the different things that he was able to do. And it was just one thing. I'll tell you a quick story. We were. He was asking me, he said, "Can you play golf with me tomorrow?" And I said, "Well, we got one other one." He said, "Well, see if you can schedule me in." He said, "I'm afraid Terry's going to ask me to play." And he said, "He's terrible. I don't want to play with him, but but if I already have a match, he won't." And so we got him away from that. And then Rick Neuheisel told me the story. He was sitting back in the back of the bus. And, you have to take a bus to go play golf because the hotels aren't close to some of these courses over there. And Coach Bowden and I just happened to be sitting up in the front, and Coach Spurrier was in the back. And that was the year that 97 that we beat and Spurrier, and then Bowden beat him too. And Spurrier was talking to Neuheisel, said, "You think those two are up there talking about how he kicked my ass this year?" and Neuheisel
yes,
said,
we are.
He said, "No, I'm guaranteed, Coach, they're talking about something else." So, but it was kind of funny that Neuheisel would tell me that.
I think Bowden's legacy, you hear all the glowing stories. One, on the field, doing what he did at Florida State. I mean, come on. That's a hard job, and he turned it into a powerhouse, something that hasn't been replicated there since. I think more importantly, off the field, the stories that you're hearing, like you're talking about, Coach, and all the ones that we've heard this week, and specifically, obviously, the connection that Mark Richt had with Bobby Bowden as a mentor and mentee. And that went far beyond football. That was a spiritual situation that they had that level of connection there. I mean, it goes to tell you what kind of guy he was, and it makes sense of how he turned Florida State into that power, because he obviously had a charisma that parents wanted their kids to play for him, and kids wanted to succeed for Bobby Bowden at Florida State.
You often hear stuff about celebrities like that. You hear things about coaches, you hear things about people in the media. Sometimes you hear good things about him, sometimes you hear bad things about him. You don't hear a lot bad about Bobby Bowden. There's not a whole lot of dirt stuff there. It's always funny stories. Everybody that meets him spoke highly of him. People mentioned how he helped their careers, and you just hope to have that sort of impact on football and other people's lives. And so I think you did, and I agree with Coach. It's a tragedy to lose somebody, but he leaves the world a better place than he found it. And I think not a lot of people can say that. So,
I was definitely, everybody has people that you're around. Certainly I was around Coach Switzer and so many other guys, but just that to know that I had a genuine friendship with Joe Paterno and Bobby Bowden, I'll take that to my grave.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys were both of them called me after Adams let me go. Paterno that afternoon, and Bobby Bowden that night. And you don't forget stuff like that.
Yeah. Friends like that, again, there's just few people that, again, we hear a lot of dirty little secrets and stuff like that, but you just didn't hear it about him. And I hope to be half as well liked, a tenth as well liked would be awesome.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's end the show on this because I know some people want some football talk as well. As we look ahead to the scrimmages coming up, I'm going to give you all a second. I just want to know, what are you hoping to learn from Georgia's scrimmages ahead of the game against Clemson? So what is it about the team that you're wanting to learn? And I'm just going to take this moment to say, I keep hearing really, really good things about Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. And I had said that out of the spring. And then as obviously his health was a situation in the summer. But if you're looking for a wide receiver to come and emerge and be a complement to what Jermaine Burton and Kearis Jackson were already doing, Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, the stuff I'm hearing is very, very positive.
Just say, from my standpoint, we cannot stand any more injuries to receivers. We've had too many things happen between the start of spring practice and we've just got to get some continuity there. We can't have anybody else go down there, and of course you worry about injuries, but you got to practice. But I would just say injuries to receivers and establish number 2 quarterback. Is Beck going to continue to excel? Are we going to go with the more experienced guy and Bennett? So I think that'll be, because you never know what's going to happen with JT. I mean, so I would say those 2 things.
I want to see how Georgia's secondary plays out. I'm pretty sure Darren Kendrick's locked down one spot, or will, depending on when they get it set up. Who's that second guy? Is it Keely Ringo? Is it Jalen Kimber? Is it Nyland Green? Who's that guy? And who plays star? You see how often Georgia has a star out there. Is it Adam Anderson? Is it Latavius Brenny? Is it Taki Smith? Who's a star out there? Again, it's the first scrimmage. I wouldn't read too much into it, but I would just like to know what are their inclinations? How are they leaning? That sort of thing. I want to see what that secondary does, especially in light of the Ross news. So that's that got my attention. I'm like, the secondary is going to be big, a very important rebuilding spot. They lost 5 of those guys are in the NFL and another one transferred. What does the secondary look like?
I can tell you all the energy in Athens is building from where I'm sitting right now. I'm about 0.2 of a mile away from Sanford Stadium, here in my office on campus. And you're seeing more and more people kind of converge on Athens. Classes begin next week. There are some orientations that happen before then. I'm beginning my graduate school program, so I'm having an orientation for myself on Thursday. All I'm telling you is that it's beginning to feel like fall, which means it's beginning to feel like college football, which that's just exciting.
Today, Kirby's taking the team down to the stadium to actually practice in the stadium to get used to that atmosphere. Just not there's not going to be any fans or anything, but just the idea of
not yet. Now there will be
the mechanics in the stadium and all. And then Saturday, I think they've got some of the McGill Society people coming in, and the IMG supporters, people, the sponsors and things like that. And I think the Letterman are coming in. I'm looking forward to that. The Letterman, see some old players.
If any of you McGill Society members or Letterman or IMG folks want to send us a list of what happens at the scrimmage, that'll be okay. No, you're right about the excitement for the season, and we even here at UGASports we feel it. So, like I said, I think this is going to be a big year for Georgia. Big year. So much so that we actually are running a promotion where you can get your first year of UGASports for $20.21. Year 2021, $20.21. You can get your first year of UGASports coverage. It's normally $100. You get it for $20. So just go to the front page of UGAsports.com and sign up. And again, we're only doing that deal because we think 2021 is going to be a monster year for Georgia. And you're right, Dane. It's starting to feel that way. You're seeing all throughout the town, the excitement is building. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, it's last year was so odd. This year, of course, you do have some rising numbers, but folks are closer to back to normal. And the idea of actually being in full stadiums has people excited.
I think on that note, we can wrap it.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right. See you guys.
Everybody, take care, and we'll see you next week.